Good morning, everyone. Day 2 of the Vegas trip. By the way, thanks to everyone who messaged me after the first day, which was yesterday, and gave me honest feedback on the hands that I played very badly. Hopefully things will turn around once I get back into 1-3 and 1-2. I was thinking about going to the Wynn and playing a tournament actually, because someone who messaged me let me know that there was a daily tournament that had a really good structure. I've only played one tournament since I started playing live cash, and it was absolutely wild. I remember there was a specific hand where someone had gone all in, 3 people called, 4th person who called had like Jack 7 offsuit or something like that, and it was still early in the tournament and there was no reason for that to happen. Yeah, it was crazy. Didn't cash or anything. I actually got like 92 out of 100 something, or maybe even worse than that. It was definitely very soft, and according to the person who messaged me, this tournament's pretty soft as well. So I might actually play that today, and if I don't, then there's always cash. But first off, we gotta eat, because I haven't eaten since like 4:30 of yesterday, and if you've been watching since the very beginning, you know that every time I come to Vegas, I have to go to Nacho Daddy.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah.
Almost there. We've walked pretty much along the entire strip.
'Cause all I do is win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Alright guys, turns out I'm in the wrong building. It says the Wynn on Poker Atlas, but it turns out the poker room's actually an Encore, so headed there now. Back in my Airbnb. It's just past midnight, but I'm gonna try to get through these hands from the cash game that I played before the tournament. First notable hand of the cash game, there are 3 limps. I raise it up to $20, and the low jack and the cutoff make the call. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, which comes Queen 8-10 to Queen 8-10 rainbow, not to anything. Both players check to me, and I'm obviously gonna bet this, so I make it 35, and only the cutoff makes the call. Turn is a 9, my opponent checks to me once again, and not sure what the best option here is, but I decided to check since I have showdown value, but maybe I should have continued barreling, picking up a little bit of 2-pair and trips equity to go along with my straight draw. Anyways, we're going to a river, which is the 3 of hearts. This time my opponent bets 115 and can't really do much here except fold, so that's what I do. In this next hand, I'm in under the gun +1 with ace jack of spades. I open it up to $15 and the hijack calls. The button 3 bets to $30. I ended up making the call, but I didn't realize that the button only had about $40 left behind after making this bet. So if I had known that at the time, I might have maybe even 4-bet just to get the other player out of the hand, since he kind of capped his range by not 3-betting, and I could just get it heads up against the player who was playing very short stacks, which with ace jack of spades I'm very happy to do. Anyways, I made the call, and the hijack makes the call as well, getting a good price too. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, which comes 5 deuce 9 to diamonds. I check, the hijack checks, and the button, who was a 3-better, checks back. Turn is the ace of clubs. I go ahead and bet $55. The hijack calls and the button folds. River is the 4 of diamonds, completing the front door flush. I decide to check here. My opponent checks back, and he shows pocket 5s for a flop set. So we do not win this one. In this next hand, we pick up pocket kings in the cutoff. The under the gun +2 player, who is a very loose, aggressive player, raises to 10. The hijack makes the call, and I decide to 3-bet this hand to $45, and I only get called by the original raiser. Flop comes 7-4 king 2 hearts. My opponent checks to me, and I learned my lesson yesterday when I also flopped a set of kings on a very similar board. So I decide, instead of getting tricky, to go ahead and bet. My opponent has about 200-ish left behind, so I go ahead and bet 75, hoping to get the money in on the turn. I figure my opponent's going to make a lot of calling mistakes here, or he might even raise since he was being very aggressive at that table. He thinks for a while and makes the call. Turn is a pretty safe card. It's the queen of clubs. My opponent checks to me, and I go ahead and put him all in.
I didn't mean to get you upset.
Yeah, I'm really mad. I'm really upset.
He tanks for a very long time, but eventually makes the fold. Last hand for this session, I pick up queen jack of diamonds. This time I'm in the small blind. The under the gun player raises to $7. 2 players call, and I make the call as well. So we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes 3-10 king rainbow. There are 2 checks. The hijack bets 10. The button calls, and I go ahead and call as well. Turn is the queen of hearts. I check. The hijack goes ahead and continues for $35, and the button makes the call once again. The hijack didn't have too much left in his stack, but I looked at the button stack, and he had about 400 something left, so I go ahead and make the call. River is the beautiful ace of hearts. It's pretty obvious what I have here if I lead out, but I decide to lead out here, and I bet $75. The hijack calls all in for less than that amount, and the button folds. I show my hand, and my opponent turns over ace king, so we end up stacking this opponent. That was the last interesting hand of the cash game. Bought in for $500, cashed out for $883 in 1 hour and 14 minutes. So Pretty awesome session. We also had the tournament, which is why I left the game at the time I did. I'm actually gonna put the tournament in a separate vlog because it has a different vibe to it and a different feeling, and there were also a lot of hands in the tournament as well, so I think it'll be better to put it into a separate vlog. So I'm going to skip those hands and talk about the cash game session I had at the Venetian after the tournament was over.
We could use some players over here. Okay, yeah.
Win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Alright guys, it is tomorrow. Yesterday I was a little too tired and didn't want to do the hands for the Venetian, but we're going to do that today. Just finished up day 3 by the way, and you're going to get to see that vlog later on. First interesting hand of the Venetian session, I have King 6 of spades in the small blind, the cutoff and the button limp. I decide to complete in the small blind and the big blind checks. So we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes 7, King 8, rainbow. I go ahead and bet 5. The big blind calls. The cutoff raises to $10. Everyone else calls, so we're still going 4 ways to a turn card, which is the queen of clubs. This time action checks all the way through. I don't remember what the river was, but it was some kind of blank. I check, the big blind checks, and this time the cutoff goes ahead and bets $35. Button folds and action is back on me. When he checks the turn, I don't think he's too strong here, so probably has some kind of weird bluff. So I decide to go ahead and call, and we end up winning against 10-5. In this next hand, I have ace-7 of clubs in the hijack. The low jack raises to 11, and both me and the big blind call. So we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes 5, 6, 8, 2 hearts. The big blind checks, and the low jack puts out a bet of $15. I decide to make the call, and the big blind calls as well. So we're still going 3 ways to a turn card, which is the 4 of hearts. So it's pretty interesting because it completes our straight, but it also completes the front door flush. And once the big blind checks, the low jack does not slow down and goes ahead and shoves for $55. Could definitely have a flush here, but can't really go anywhere once I hit my straight. So I make the call, and the big blind folds. The river is the 9 of hearts, pretty bad card. And the low jack shows ace king with the king of hearts for a rivered flush. So we were actually ahead on the turn, and fortunately my opponent got there. So after a while I ended up being pretty card dead for most of the session, and I think I was down maybe 80 at this point due to the pots that I lost before and a few other ones. And then in this next hand I pick up queen jack of hearts in the cutoff. There are 2 limps. I raise it up to $15, and the button, who was a younger player who sat down a little while ago, 3 bets to $50. He was playing pretty tight throughout the session, seemed to be a thinking player as well, so it was definitely better than most of the 1-2 players. Action folds back to me, and with queen jack suited here, it's a hand that plays really well, and my opponent has a pretty deep stack, so I decide I'm going to make the call and see a flop. The flop comes queen high with 2 diamonds, so pretty good for us. I check it over to my opponent, and he goes ahead and bets $55. I make the call, of course. Turn is a pretty amazing card. It's a jack giving us 2 pair. I don't think there's much of a reason to bet here, so I check it over to my opponent once again. If he has something like ace-king or king-queen or ace-queen, no reason to think that he's not going to continue betting here. Unfortunately, though, he does check back, so we're going to a river, which brings the 3 of clubs. So it's a complete blank. I could lead out here, but I do want to give my opponent another chance to bluff if he does have something like ace-king, or if he had something like ace-10 or pocket 10, something like that, then he might decide to bet here. So I go ahead and check it over to him, and unfortunately he looks at his cards and checks and says, "You got me." So I show my hand, and he goes ahead and bucks. I was actually going to leave after this last orbit, so it was pretty awesome to have made back enough money to get unstuck in one of the last hands I was playing. So very last hand of this session, I have ace-queen. I believe I'm in the low jack based on the video. The only note I have on this hand says ace-queen against crazy dude. I'm guessing that at the time I figured I'd remember the action, but I guess I don't. Anyways, based on the video, it looks like the other player was in under the gun. This player, by the way, was very loose, and I guess he was a typical spewy kind of player. He goes ahead and limps. I believe I raised to something like 15, and he makes the call. Flop brings an ace. I'm guessing I bet something like 22 or so, and he goes ahead and shoves for this much. I'm guessing that's about 140 or so. I have top pair here against a crazy player, so obviously gonna make the call. Turn is a 4, and river is a queen. My opponent looks kind of sheepish and turns over a queen. I turn over my hand, and he goes ahead and mucks, and we take this one down. So we ended up winning 2 pretty big pots before leaving. I was in for 480 total and ended up cashing out for 623. We ended up making $143 and booking another winning session.
John, 1, 2.
Good night and thank you.
No, I'm okay. Thank you. You have a nice day too.
Oh, I gotta take a picture of your wing.
Yeah. You want to be in it?
No, because I lost you.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, you have a YouTube or something?
Yeah.
What is it called?
Poker vlog. Dojebag.
Dojebag?
Dojebag, like the meme, but douchebag.
Douchebag.
Exactly.
How do you spell that?
D-O-G-E-B-A-G.
Oh.
Oh, whoops.
Good luck, guys.
Alright guys, just finished up your session. Went pretty badly for most of it, and then in the last like 6 hands, I won 2 big pots and went from being down maybe 80 or so to being up $143 in the last 6 hands. So pretty awesome. And I was actually planning to leave after that last orbit, and then within those hands I won, so yeah. Alright, that is it for today's vlog. Part 2 of day 2 is coming in the next vlog when I played the tournament at the Wynn. But before we go, I want to give a quick shout out to Devin, who I met at the most recent session I played at the bike before going to Vegas. I was filming that day and I was thinking of making a vlog out of it, but the vlogs from the bike haven't been as entertaining and haven't been as fun to edit since I can't film in there. But I still want to give Devin his shout out, so here's a clip I took of him at the bike. What do you want to say, Devin? Kit. It's like Viet with a K. Yeah.
Like the car? It's all over. Nice to meet you, kid. I've been following your vlog for about from the beginning. Won't take too much of my money.
Since the next vlog will only be the tournament hands, I might include a few hands from that session at the bike just to add in a few hands and make the vlog a little longer and more entertaining, because there were maybe like 1 or 2 hands that were pretty interesting. So with that, that is the end of today's episode. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next poker vlog.
Just win, baby, win. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there.